What's going on, everybody? Paul from Hashtag Sports wanted to get on and talk a little bit about some of the news that's coming out on One Bills Drive. Obviously, Buffalo is kind of riddled with injuries. I say injuries loosely, right? Obviously, you lose Ike Bucker to an Achilles. That's a crippling injury. So you kind of look at that offensive line and you look at, some of the COVID list and you're like, man, when is this going to get better? Well, good news is on the way. But before we get to that, thank you for joining me. I do want to point out we do have a new Twitter profile that is at hashtag 2.0. You'll see the name is up in this corner. Hey, look at that. I got it right the first time. And I never get that right, by the way. Also, thank you for joining me again. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment. We read everything here. So thanks for joining me on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So the big news, and we'll just kind of switch over. Thank you to Mr. Rogers Homes for being our sponsor of this show. But we do want to point out Buffalo Bills PR on Twitter, that's at Buffalo Bills PR, put out that they've activated, or the team has announced, listed activation of 4 players off of that COVID reserve list, which sometimes can take players one game. Sometimes we've seen it hold out players for multiple games. First person off the list, Cole Beasley. That's number 1. Gabe Davis, number 2. John Feliciano, who's had a real tough time. He's off the list at number 3. And then AJ Epineza has been removed from the list as of today, as effective today. What's up to Trek Reviewer and Daniel Garis? Again, thank you guys for joining me. So this is really big news for a lot of different reasons, because now your wide receiver room just got really, really healthy. And you got like a 13 target performance from Isaiah McKenzie, which nobody saw coming. If you streamed Isaiah McKenzie in daily fantasy sports, it was a wing and a prayer, and it paid off for you. Now, Mario and I talk about this all the time. Whenever you have something that is new, normally that's hard to defend, right? That's normally pretty hard to defend, anything that's new. And Isaiah McKenzie being an integral part of the offense, that is kind of new. He set career highs last year in touchdowns and actually saw a 25% snap drop from his previous season. And this year, he's been near an invisible part of the offense, save for the last couple of weeks. Hey, that's right. Daniel Garis also mentions Mike Love is off the COVID list. But he is listed on the practice squad. Even when Mike Love got put on the COVID list, Sean McDermott in his presser talking about, were there more players that tested positive for COVID? And he looked over at somebody off screen and goes, yeah, 2 practice squad guys. Like, didn't even name Mike Love. Mike Love has been kicking around One Bills Drive for what seems like forever. Yeah, Mike Trotter. You can't forget Mike Love. That's right. You can't forget Mike Love. It is one of those circumstances where Buffalo is getting healthy at the right time. You got to really take these next 2 games. And you're going against an Atlanta team that is not that bad. Like, people talked about Atlanta at the beginning of the season saying they're one of the worst teams in the league. But the fact is, if they beat you this upcoming Sunday, they're at 500. And in that division, that's not too shabby for them. Now, they obviously have had some issues, much like any other team. They got off to a really bad start. But they're an interesting case study because they're very much like Buffalo in a couple respects. One, they don't run for first downs. Buffalo, we don't run for first downs all that much either. It's actually a 2-to-1 ratio for Buffalo first downs, rushing versus passing. But Atlanta's is even a bigger split than that. I think they've only got 68 first downs all season running the football, which is not a lot, right? That is not a lot at all. So they love to pass the ball, but we're not going to talk about Atlanta's offense. We're going to talk about Atlanta's defense because they're pretty bad. They're pretty bad. It's pretty bad defense. One that you could exploit in the run or the pass. Either this is a pick your poison type game, and getting Cole Beasley and Gabe Davis back healthy kind of brings you back to what you could do on offense. But it does beg the question of what's going to give here. Obviously, you had Marquez Stevenson returning punts for you. Is Marquez Stevenson going to be inactive against Atlanta? With the way that Isaiah McKenzie played, I think we'd all agree that that's what I would expect to see. I would expect to see Marquez Stevenson inactive the rest of the season. I wouldn't expect to see him. Isaiah McKenzie gave you everything and more you could ever have possibly asked for. So I see no circumstance where he isn't playing for you or isn't on the game day roster. Now, will Isaiah McKenzie actually be involved in the offense? Well, we saw more of those jet sweep look like we saw from Mike McKenzie last year, and that was really exciting because that was his major role last year. It's just while he may have only gotten a carry or two a game, maybe 2 or 3 touches a game, that jet sweep look where McKenzie runs behind the line of scrimmage at snap, that's an important look for Buffalo. It really gotten away from it. It's been, kind of brought back in the last 2 games specifically. So it's a really, really big one for Buffalo. And McKenzie does that well for you. You could ask Emmanuel Sanders to do that. You could ask Gabe Davis to do it. It's not something that's exclusive to McKenzie, but you want to get punt returners in space, right? Like that's what you want to do. And that's a great way to get McKenzie in space to try to utilize a lot of his talents. But what happens from here? Now, a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear that Cole Beasley is actually second in this team in targets. A lot of people have been saying that Cole Beasley has been a forgotten member of this offense. Well, he's gotten over 100 targets. So only 2 Bills receivers have over 100 targets. One's Stephon Diggs, keep that train moving, and the other one's Cole Beasley. They're the only ones with 100 targets on the season so far. So it's not that Cole is forgotten. In fact, far from it. But he maybe hasn't been a integral part or I guess it's an impact issue, right? You kind of expected Cole to have a couple games where he took over. I remember one of those this season, but the ball's been spread out relatively evenly, I guess you could say. Emmanuel Sanders is at about 70-ish targets. Dawson Knox is about 60-ish. Gabe Davis has only really been, a meaningful part of the offense for a few games. So all in all, what are you going to see going into Atlanta? Well, I think you're going to see more of what you saw at the beginning part of the season. Don't get me wrong. I love Isaiah McKenzie's contribution, and this team is going to reward him, and they're going to reward him in the beginning part of the game. You're going to see Isaiah McKenzie probably involved in those early 15 plays, that script. And if those plays don't pan out to any real meaningful touches, then it'll probably be back to business as usual for this Buffalo offense. But if McKenzie can explode within those first couple touches, then maybe you start seeing him a little bit more. Truth is, Josh played out of his mind last week. That's not going to, I'm not going to say that it can't happen every week, but it would be unwise to think that it could happen every week. I see Tommy from our Tailgate Talk show. I feel like Dabo went away with a lot of plays that worked in 2020. In the past few weeks, he's sprinkling them back in. You can catch Tommy and Mike here on #Sports every Friday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They do a phenomenal job. And Tommy, you're exactly right. But one of the things that I think is most interesting about that is you really haven't run a lot of what made you successful in 2020. And to go back to that is injecting something new to the offense. Even though it's kind of old familiar, it's something you haven't done most of the season. With that, Buffalo has also made a concerted effort to actually run the football the last 2 weeks. And I think that kind of balances out a major part of your offense, where before you were turning yourself into a one-dimensional team. Now you aren't. You can run the football if you need to or want to. And that to me is such a critical piece of this. Dwayne says he's not a big fan of Diggs, Sanders, and Beasley trio. I understand that, Dan asks, can we go 6 wide? It's not how math works, Dan. It's not how math works. But I think it is time to talk about, well, Daniel Varys brings up a comment about Isaiah McKenzie. Let's pull that up real quick. McKenzie had a good game, had as good a game for the Bills as Beasley has had. I'm a Beasley fan, but this could be a sign of things changing. Really, the role that they play is very, very different. While Beasley is very creative after the line of scrimmage, McKenzie's going to be a little bit more conservative and stay within play design. While Cole is going to go out there and try and create space, which sometimes is good and sometimes gets him overlooked. McKenzie is kind of this is the way the play is drawn up. I'm going to do my job. I'm just going to do what it says, and I'm going to try and find the opportunities within there. I'm going to not give up on my routes. I'm going to keep running my routes. McKenzie had a bunch of looks that were he wasn't the initial look on the play just because he continued to run his routes and the play broke down. Allen found him with with some lasers. I mean, Allen was throwing the ball all over the field, man. It was a beautiful thing. Truck Reader says Cole to the bench. I don't think that's going to happen. But Garrett says, Cole, I don't think we'll have a game like McKenzie. Cole is a lot slower. Really, you're not asking Cole Beasley to be a burner for you. That's not really the role that he's playing. You're asking him to find that underneath, and that's where he's going to stay. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. The one thing that I think is so interesting about this Bills offense now, if you add in McKenzie, is it adds just another layer of what you can do. Because Breida was inactive last game. It was Moss and Singletary. So McKenzie being an integral part of the offense did inject some speed that wouldn't have otherwise been there had Breida been inactive. I know a lot of people are saying Paul Breida is not a major part of this offense. I do agree with you. It's the dynamic that I think is important that you kind of have to protect sometimes. Uh, yeah, Geek Squad, you can never go 6 wide. There's only 11 players on offense. That's true. One thing that I did see a little bit, I talk about this briefly. Atlanta, I don't think is capable of doing what the Patriots were doing. But the book, the last few weeks has been spread your coverage out on Josh and make him, make the Bills run to beat you. Right. That's kind of been the book on the Bills the last 6 weeks. And you watch the Patriots game, and what the Patriots were doing was in their blitz pressures or in their pressure packages, when they were really trying to get there with 4 and sometimes 5, what they were doing was they were creating large gaps in their rush profile, right? So their pass rushers were creating gaps, and that was on purpose. The reason they were creating large gaps was to give what looked like a passing lane. And then you often had a linebacker like Jamie Collins slide into that lane to keep Allen in the pocket. So if Allen were to go to step up, he steps up, see there's a guy there, and then would try and stay in the pocket, and they were trying to get to Allen that way. It's an interesting thought because in previous weeks, you might have been able to beat Allen like that. But, great job. I mean, really great job by Allen to see a weakness in his game and really work to try and get past that. Really happy with the way that he's played. Let's talk a little bit about our sponsor, because we do have a sponsor for this video, and it is LinkedIn Jobs. These days, it can be hard to find the right candidates to hire for your small business, and that's why LinkedIn Jobs has made it easier than ever to find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Listen, I'm hiring at my job, and sometimes hiring is a real challenge. You end up with people who might not be a right fit for the job, and you end up spending a lot of time talking to them without realizing they might not be the right fit for the job with their experience or what you're specifically looking for. LinkedIn Jobs will help you find the right candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn every single week? Go to linkedin.com/HTS. And link your job for free. It's never been easier. Restrictions apply. All right. So let's get back to Sean there. There's Sean's promo. We do have a giveaway, by the way. If you go into the description of this video, you'll see we are giving away a $100 Amazon gift card. That $100 Amazon gift card is through Gleam. You go in, you visit a couple YouTube pages, you go follow our Twitter handle, you go visit Sean's YouTube page and subscribe to him. All ways to enter. We're going to be giving that away at the final post game of the season. There's still plenty of time to enter, so you can click the link in the description and go enter that $100 gift card, Amazon gift card giveaway that Sean is doing for us. Hey, Dwayne, thanks for the super chat. Let's see what he says. He goes, I would like to see Diggs, Davis, Beasley, McKenzie, and Breida all on the field at the same time, speed, size, and route running. You know what? I'm inclined to agree there. One thing that this team has not leveraged has been its speed, right? What they've leveraged is their ability to create separation as plays break down. That's kind of been their bread and butter all season, right? That's what they've been. When their offense is successful, it's not because Josh is hitting those routes early. It's because the protection has been there long enough for the play to break down, for Josh to hit something downfield. That's really when Buffalo's offense has been successful. And that is true even as of last year, right? That's the way that it was. So JPS says, hey, who wants to bet the Bills play with less intensity and fire and make the next game too close for comfort? There wouldn't be the cardiac Bills for nothing, JP. I'm going to go with the fact that while Atlanta is a pretty decent team, that defense is not excellent. Hendog even calls out that he loved the emotion from both offense and defense. Hopefully it continues heading into the playoffs. Hey, playoffs is the key word. If you want to control your destiny, you got to take the next two. That's it. Take the next two. There you go. That's how you do it. Track Reviewer says you could go 6 wide if you cut down to 4 linemen. You have to have an eligible line. That would be an ineligible line. They would not all be eligible receivers. We actually talked about that a little bit. What constitutes an eligible receiver? There were some down the field penalties that we had seen Buffalo kind of fall victim to. Illegal man downfield. And I broke that down on our Patreon page, which I guess is a great part to bring this up. Also in the link is the link to our Patreon. For $7.16 a month, you get exclusive content. You get our direct number. You can text us whenever you want. You get contact directly with us, whenever you choose. We got a great community over there, but there are Patreon specific videos. And there we actually broke down a couple plays from last week explaining what an ineligible man downfield is and how Judon actually had a case on that shovel pass that Allen went for the touchdown. He did actually have a case that Darrell Williams was an illegal man downfield. There is a case to be made. So cool little education there for those of you on Patreon who didn't see that. There's an exclusive video on our Patreon page for you. And actually, we're going to be doing a Patreon giveaway on this episode. So once we're all done and concluded, we're giving a jersey away every week until the end of the season, and that is only for our Patreon members. So everybody who's a Patreon member, as of right now, we're going to do that giveaway once this episode has concluded. And then we'll, obviously happily mail that to whomever wins. So we're doing a Bills jersey for the next 3 weeks, or next 2 weeks, rather. We've got a couple jerseys to give away. So we're going to do that. Really excited about that. All right. Now that the Bills are paid, let's get back to talking about this Bills and Atlanta game. Now, the one that's so fascinating to me, AJ Epineza is an interesting topic of conversation, but John Feliciano is a bigger topic of conversation to me. John Feliciano really did have a pretty tough time coming back from the COVID list. He didn't, it beat him up pretty good from what he was recalling on Twitter, or at least what I inferred on Twitter. Kevin Smith says, Paul, I assume we could certainly win out. Oh, we most certainly can win out. Part of that is dependent on the offensive line, though. Does Ryan Bates actually get a start at guard? Well, he started at left tackle to start last week's game. So I guess anything's possible. I've always liked Ryan Bates. I always thought that he was a player that, you could cycle in anywhere, right? You traded for him, and he had experience at tackle, guard, and center. So a perfect Sean McDermott player, do anything player. Can he start at guard for you? He did look actually pretty decent with some of those assignments at the tail end of last week. So I think Ryan Bates can start for you. I would be shocked to see Mongo play. With as beat up as it was reported that he is, I would kind of expect to not see him this upcoming week. I do want to point out that the injury report is out for the Bills, and here's what we got. First off, our limited guys who are limited. Mario Addison was listed as limited today, but that was a vet rest day. Jerry Hughes, vet rest day, listed as limited. Ed Oliver with an ankle, also listed as limited. Emmanuel Sanders with a knee, listed as limited. Full participants, guys who were in the injury report, but are now ready to go. Now, mind you, today was just a walkthrough practice. So one of those things where the injury report doesn't change all that much, but it changes a little bit. But today was just a walkthrough. Devin Singletary is listed as a full with an ankle. Always great to see guys move to full. Jordan Poyer was a full with a shoulder. Micah Hyde, full with a forearm. Vernon Butler was a DNP with an illness, and so was Jaquan Johnson. So neither of those guys actually practiced or were part of the walkthrough. Something to keep an eye on. Vernon Butler, not really a critical part. Jaquan Johnson, a special teams player for you. So not anything critical as of yet. But let me know in the comments section. Do you guys agree? Do you think that we see Mongo active for this upcoming game? John Feliciano, again, a critical part of this offense from the start of the season. Do we see him back? Is he going to be back? Is he going to be active for game day? He's a tough dude, right? If he had it his way, of course he's going to be active. Ford is still listed out as COVID. So those of you asking about Cody Ford, he is not back. He's still listed out on COVID. As I said at the beginning of the stream, sometimes that could take a little while. Sometimes that's a game. Sometimes it's just a couple days. Sometimes it's a couple games. Ford has not yet been listed back, and there's been no update on his status. So that one is what it is. There's only so much you can do. All right. So let's get to our giveaway. So this is coming to us again through our Patreon. We are going to be giving away a jersey. So we're going to go to our random number generator, and let me just pull that up. Sequence generator. Here we go. And actually, let me share my screen so you guys can see the magic happen. Again, these are only for our Patreon members. If you want to be a member on Patreon, the link is in your description. You can go ahead and click on that. Mike Trotter mentioned Star is back. Star was out for a personal reason, which, I mean, take that for what it's worth. It's a frustrating thing for a lot of people. I get it, right? I totally get it. It's frustrating for a lot of people. That's where we're just going to kind of leave that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to determine what jersey we are giving away first. We do have 3 jerseys. We're going to do this 3 times. So here is sequence number 1. It actually kept it in exact order. Number 2, number 3. We're giving away jersey number 2. Okay, and now we are going to back up. And we currently have 10 Patreon members. So the nice thing about that is if you join Patreon, over again, link is in the description. You're going to be in for the remaining jersey giveaways. We actually also have a Kyle Williams autographed hat that I'm sure we'll give away. We'll find a reason to give away somewhere somehow. So that is ongoing as well. But right now, if you're one of our 10 Patreons, you have a chance at a jersey. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw this 3 times. Whoever is at the top position is going to be the winner of the jersey. So let's get that sequence. There's 1. Come on. Sequence 2. Sequence 3. That is Patreon number 5. Perfect. I'll go ahead and pull that list up and we will see who was the winner of our jersey. Let me stop sharing here. The whole time I thought I was sharing my screen and I was not. So just to be clear, here we go. Number 5 Patreon was the winner. I'll go ahead and pull that up and see who that winner was. So the Buffalo Bills going against the Atlanta Falcons. I am not really expecting a close game. You guys can, of course, drop your score predictions in the chat. If I am a betting man, right? And again, if I am a betting man, the betting man in me says that there is absolutely no way on God's green earth Buffalo loses this football game. The only involvement the running backs even have in the game is pass catching. That Kyle Pitts is probably your really lone receiving target. Russell Gage is sort of an average NFL receiver to me. So I don't think Buffalo's secondary is really going to cost you. I think that's sort of a weird thing to talk about is yes, you lost Trey White. And a lot of people are saying, well, Buffalo's secondary is held up great. They haven't really gone against great teams, great throwing teams. You went against Tampa, right? That was a rough ride. You pushed that one to overtime. So, kudos there, but really you haven't played great passing teams. So I'm still kind of on the fence there. I would have loved to have seen Buffalo do and use some of those vet practice squad spots like they did last year. Last year they signed Devonta Freeman and Kenny Stills and Duron Lee. They were signing veteran players to their practice squad to kind of bulk up for the playoff run because you're going to want a veteran in there and not necessarily a younger player. You may still see that cycle happen, but at this point, nothing. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. John Veneron. John, I'm glad to see that you are the winner of let's see here. Matt Milano jersey. We'll get this out to you, John. I'll email you. We'll take care of you. All right. So thank you again for joining me. Paul from #sports. Go Bills as always. And we will talk to you guys soon. Again, thank you to Sean. If you want to enter that $100 Amazon gift card giveaway, go ahead and get into the description. There's the link for that. If you want to join our Patreon, the link is there as well. Thanks for commenting, liking, and subscribing. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great one.